Hey cats, it's Ed Stir Fry Bud here. Welcome back to Ed Bud Running Shoe Reviews. Thanks for tuning in once again, it's always appreciated. Since the Streetfly review, I've received about a gazillion questions on this shoe, so today it's the ZoomX Streetfly versus the rest. Thanks for tuning in once again guys, always appreciated. If you haven't done so already, hit that subscribe button, but also click the bell below for notifications when I launch those new videos for you. And it really helps the channel out too if you give this video a thumbs up like, but also share it with your running buddies. Thanking you, Tar. All the shoes in today's comparison have been bought by myself with my own earth credits. No skeletons in this closet. Okay, first comparison up against the Streetfly is the Rebel 2. So in a US size 12, there's actually about 40 grams difference in weight between the two shoes. I always think of this shoe as being quite light, but up against the Streetfly, actually, you can really feel it in hand. It's quite bizarre. Like you've really set the bar here with this shoe. So where is the extra weight in the Rebel 2? I think the majority of it is in the rubber on the outsole. Quite a thick application here across the majority of the outsole as well. One thing I'm loving the Streetfly for is the fact they got the rubber in the right places. And there's quite a lot of exposed midsole. It's going to take a pounding, but don't really care. Perhaps the upper on the Rebels adding a little bit of that weight as well. That Streetfly mesh is just so thin and flexible. And I think while the Rebel 2 is a relatively light shoe as well, the upper thickness plays a part. The forefoot section of the shoe is actually not that much wider than the Streetfly, and in the rear of the shoe it's actually much narrower, which leads me to suggest that the Streetfly actually feels a little bit more stable underfoot. And the arch in the Streetfly is a little bit more prominent than you find in the Rebel 2. And both shoes highly compressive, though the Streetfly takes that to the extreme. I do think that if you found the Rebel 2 too compressive and squashy, then the Streetfly just isn't something that's going to work for you. Oddly, the Rebel 2 to me feels a little bit more like a daily or everyday shoe, perhaps a slightly higher stack. I think it's an optical illusion though, there's quite a bit of stack here, but it's just so compressive. Dare I say it that the Streetfly might be too soft for some people for 5k? Those who want that real ground feel from their race shoes should probably look elsewhere. This is actually a UK 11.5, still classifies as a US 12. But I did find it didn't fit true to size. Quite a lot of people had to go up another half size to get the right length. I have to say I find the Streetfly, the more comfortable the two shoes, I think the upper's just that bit better because there's less of it. If I had to have one of these two shoes, I'd probably go with the more versatile Streetfly. Better versatility, certainly at lower paces. I think the price is pretty much exactly the same, but yeah, I'd take this one any day. Next shoe up in the comparison is the Tempo Next Percent. Well, it's night and day really between the Streetfly and this one. There's not really any significant similarities between the two. Do you like your suspension soft or hard? I think the Tempo Next Percent's a bit like a muscle car really compared to the Streetfly. In my size at least, 110 grams heavier. That's like half a Streetfly. A much more containing and very thick upper here with a really off the ground feel. You certainly don't feel as much connection. That Streetfly's a real race flat feel. Stones right underneath your foot waffle. That stabilizing react in the heel section of the Tempo Next Percent does present quite a different feel. Sort of controls the landing as you come down. And I think over longer distances, that nylon plate and the Air Zoom pods tend to have more of a chance to show their advantages. It's a much more aggressive drop in the Tempo Next Percent. Everything about it's just rah! Whereas I think with a Streetfly, you got something a little bit more passive here. It's not as in your face, and if you want to pick up the pace, it really does work. Just think it will be a more usable shoe on a daily basis. Even on supposedly tired legs today, which actually they feel great. I got out for a mid-tempo 5k and I just couldn't help myself. Threw in some faster paced sections. Range here is the key for me, and whilst I love the Tempo Next Percent, I couldn't run at its sort of intended pace every day. It would just exhaust me. The Streetfly for me is inadvertently a very versatile shoe so far, perhaps due to the more conservative drop and that magic ZoomX material. And I guess there's less to go wrong here in the Streetfly without those Air Zoom pods, the plate, or that stretch rubber section in the outsole. As such, for price or intended use case at least, if I could only have one pair between the two, it would have to be the Streetfly. Good £50 difference there for a very nimble shoe here. Why didn't Nike produce this years ago? Kind of went the other way, didn't they? More foam. Next up is the Takumi Sen 8. So this other minimal shoe, I say that tongue in cheek, is almost like a technological terror when compared to the Streetfly. Both shoes at first appear quite close in terms of rigidity, but the Streetfly is vastly more flexible when you get it on foot. And the ZoomX is vastly more compressive than the Lightstrike Pro that you have here in the Sen. Do the rods in the Sen make much of a difference? I don't think so, really. Is it £40 worth of difference? Certainly not. Would the Streetfly have benefited from some sort of plate in the heel, as we have in the Sen 8? Maybe. So it's about 20 grams worth of difference, in my size at least, between the Streetfly and the Sen 8. Though the Sen 8 is also the narrowest shoe in today's comparison in terms of the forefoot and heel width. Grip is good on both shoes, I have to say. The forefoot section of the Streetfly is insanely good. Even on grass it worked, and I don't say that often with a running shoe. Is the extra tech we got here in the Sen 8 worth the extra money? And the extra weight as well? All I know is the Streetfly is insanely forgiving. A really quite addictive shoe, actually. I really wanted to go out and run in it again today, even though it was supposed to be an easy effort, and it made a harder effort seem that bit easier. Dare I say it has a very special feel about it to me, like a spicy Turbo 2 perhaps. Again, if I could only have one of these two, certainly for pace work or just general versatility, daily use perhaps, I'd go for this. Way cheaper as well. I mean, what were Adidas thinking? 170 for the Sen 8, 135 for this one. That's not to say that I'm not enjoying the Sen 8. I am warming up to it as the miles stack up too. I just wish they'd left out those rods. The viewers have requested this comparison more than any other. The Streetfly up against the Next%. Pulled out my old green pair here. These are a size 11 UK. There's about 30 odd grams difference here between the two shoes. Does the Streetfly make this shoe unnecessary? Let's not forget that this shoe is aimed at the marathon distance. Lots more foam here, plus that carbon plate. On foot is quite a different feel, to be honest with you. I detect a lot more squash in the forefoot area of the shoe, and the Vaporfly still represents that distance model. Was I starting to detect the foam bottoming out after about 10 or 11 miles in the Streetfly? Well, yeah, I don't really think that's what it's intended for. I mean, you could run a half marathon in it, no problem at all. Would you feel a bit beaten up? Maybe. Is it worth using the Streetfly for that distance? You got 30 grams less on each foot. Very different feel in the foam here. I'm sure that ZoomX isn't quite the same amongst all the different shoes. A number of viewers have also stated they think that there's perhaps different formulations of ZoomX or different variants of it perhaps. I gotta say, the grip on the Streetfly is vastly better than the stuff you get here in the Next%. The thorns that normally stick in the rubber section of the Next% just don't seem to penetrate through the stuff here in the Streetfly. It really is night and day, and I hope that the Vaporfly Next% 3 has this type of rubber in the traction area. I mean, do you need both of these shoes? I suppose if you're a runner that attempts all the distances, 5k to 10k, I mean, this one's going to be your obvious choice. If you're doing those sort of 5k, 10k road events, then you're going to want something nice and simple, just keeps out of the way and does what it's got to do. But I think if you also dabble in the full or half marathon, then there's still room for the Next%. I think perhaps if you don't race anything more than the half marathon and you're a runner of a lighter build, then the Streetfly covers most of the bases for you, and it's also quite a reasonable price, whereas the Next% just seems to be getting more expensive year on year. If you've been lucky enough to pick up the Streetfly, what are your opinions so far on the shoe? Do you agree with me about the Next% outsole? Do you wish they'd switch it up to that wonderful rubber that we've seen on the Tempo Next%, Alphafly and the Streetfly? Let me know your thoughts and opinions down in the comments. Musical interlude for you. I've been enjoying the fantastic album from The Darkness from last year called Motorheart. Makes you wonder whether there's a bit of a Motorhead influence here. On the track it's Love Gym. There's certainly a speed metal kind of vibe going on, and some wild, unhinged vocals from Hawkins. I like the chugging riffs as well. Motorheart. Some really nice guitar tones here, very succulent. They provide a thump to the chest, a bit like a very warm cup of minestrone soup. You don't have to be crazy about me, but it helps. Has an almost Aerosmith type vibe about it. The beats are certainly reminiscent of perhaps Walk This Way, the track they did with Run DMC. It's not all mad, crazy guitar riffs though. The track Sticky Situations shows the band in a more sort of ballad style, slightly more sensitive. It's really nice acoustic guitar picking going on there. Overlooked, I think, a little bit, this one. Motorheart by The Darkness. Thanks for sticking around to the end of the video, guys, always appreciated. If you haven't done so already, help the channel out by picking up some merch and also joining and becoming a member. There's 3 tiers of different perks so you can interact more with me and also with the viewers. Hit that subscribe button and click the bell for notifications, but also give this video a thumbs up like and share it with your running buddies. My name's Ed Budd, and I'll be seeing you